Welcome to Board Ghost, a story broadcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, but has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me, no. Dying don't agree with me, no. All you board ghosts, come with me, we're going home.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories for shared experiences. We can't see you, can't hear you, yet we will play for you. This night's offering is Fiasco. To find out how we generated the story playing the game of Fiasco, go check out our Fiasco Rules Primer. We're going to be playing the playset Echoes of the Lost City, and the score is Have You Seen the Yellow Sign? It's a very Lovecraftian, unspeakable, otherworldly horrors playset. And
Doesn't go with Board Ghost themes at all, obviously. Not our bread and butter.
Speaking of ghosts, there's an optional rule in this playset, Ghost Dice.
Ghost dice.
And we're going to replace 2 of our black dice and 2 of our white dice with these 4 ghost dice, and we add them to give a little uncertainty to our scenes. So when a ghost die is presented, what would be a good or bad outcome is instead interrupted by a mysterious event.
A spooky event, John.
It'll be subtle and not overtly supernatural, but enough to distract the active player and prevent the action from being attempted, such as a picture falling off a wall, etc. So we'll get into all that.
Yeah, I think the person deciding the positive or negative at the end of the scene really decides whether or not they want a ghost die to show up instead. Ghost die.
And it'll also play into our aftermath.
Yeah.
All right. So our humble players this week, myself, John Holt, with me.
As always, Ken Breeze. What's up, Board Ghosts?
And our returning guest we're excited to have back.
And I'm Sharang, and I seem to be a magnet for ghostly stories.
You are a ghost magnet.
And I mean, you didn't at all request that.
No. It's not like you chose this playset at all.
Well,
Sharang.
I chose it because the name appealed to me.
It is very appealing.
And then I opened it, and
I'm not criticizing your choice.
No.
I think it's a good call, a good choice. We're going to roll our dice and generate our grid.
Yeah. I'm playing Hank Rockford. Hank Rockford is a adventurer, I'd say sort of like a thrill seeker, sort of like an Indiana Jones type, I guess, to some degree. Hank Rockford is an amnesiac, though. He has found his way to Lost City and returned, but has no idea that he was there or how to get back. He does sort of have flashes. He's on the lookout for this place. So he's trying to find his way back. He knows that there's this face in a mirror that he is searching for. And so I think that's sort of where we find Hank, searching for this face in the mirror. He's 52. He's athletic. He's dressed in clothes that are not of the age, probably like 20 or 30 years out of date, oddly. So he seems dressed from another time.
So I'm playing Midge Bones. Midge is a bookish explorer. She is a searcher for knowledge, and she has exhausted her search in books and is now looking in the world for something.
So I am playing the mysterious stranger, and I'm inspired by the Magritte painting with the apple in front of the face. So I'm going to say that when one thinks of the mysterious stranger, in their memory, some object is always in between them and the face.
He's always tipping his fedora, and you just like his word bubble that says "Milady" covers his face.
Or like they're always just standing behind a potted plant, or something is jutting out of the wall in front of their face. There's always something blocking their face. But
it's like one of those like movies where the guy walks out of the shower, and someone carries a vase just
in Austin Powers, exactly.
But it's his face.
It's his face.
So you can see everything else.
Interesting because we know his father is searching for a face in a mirror.
That's really cool, actually. That's really cool. Indeed.
And the stranger is in his 30s, and he wears a fancy. He's dressed like in a dinner jacket, like he came from a fancy party. He's often dressed like that, and we know that his father is Hank.
That's right. The mysterious stranger and Hank are related.
And the mysterious stranger somehow seduced Midge Bones, which is our relationship. We have a power play.
I'd like the idea that it's unclear whether or not Hank actually has been to Lost City. I think he thinks he has, but who knows if he actually has. But I think Hank has been on this journey for a long time and has forgotten things.
So does Hank have a strong feeling that this mysterious stranger is his progeny?
I think we're going to find that out as we play.
Okay.
I think, we yeah.
Cool. So I'll run through our grid one more time, and then we'll get into our story.
Great.
All right. So from Ken's character, Hank Rockfort, and my character, Midge Bones, there is a relationship of echoes. Have you read the accursed book? And a need paired to our relationship, a need to destroy the face in the mirror. Between my character and Sharong's character, the mysterious stranger, and Midge Bones, there is a power play, a woman seduced by an enigmatic stranger, and an object, a life-size marionette strung up through the ceiling. And between Sharong's character, the mysterious stranger, and Ken's character, there is a family relationship, estranged father and child, and a location that contextualizes their relationship, the lost city wandering down endless streets. All right, so
awesome.
There's our grid. We'll get into our game.
Camera pans onto a big city, New York, in fact. It's sort of coming down onto the streets. I'm thinking it's raining, it's gray, it's night. We're seeing lots of cars on the streets, people with trench coats. I'm thinking that we're in the 1950s, the late 50s here in New York City. Lots of beeping of cars, the sound of feet and people yelling and shouting, the rain, neon lights, hawkers, lots of stuff going, bustling city. And I think we're sort of pushing into the steamy side streets of an ethnic enclave, a Chinatown, in fact, as we're sort of seeing ducks hanging with their heads still attached, different sort of mollusks in pails, and different types of foods and goods being sold on the streets. Clientele, the streets are packed. It's New York City. It's raining. But we sort of push into a shop that is under the streets. So you have to take down a stairway and through a grimy door to a curio shop. And that is where we find Hank Rockfort. Hank Rockfort is in his early 50s. He's athletic specimen of a man, probably, average height, 5'11" or so. He is Caucasian. It looks like he hasn't shaved in a little while, so he has sort of a stubble. His clothes are slick with rain, and he is talking with the person who works there. What does this person look like, John?
It's actually not Midge Bones.
It's not Midge Bones. Okay, good.
You're talking to a wizened old proprietor.
I am a wizened old proprietor.
And he's got a thick southern drawl.
Yeah.
Sure, in Chinatown. Makes sure sense.
His family moved here a long time ago.
He has a gray,
and Hank is
ratty, like moth-eaten suit, and a robe on top of that, like a thin robe.
And the bell just rings, the doorbell, like the ding ding, like the door just closed, and we can see that Hank has just come in, and he's sort of looking around, surveying the place, seeing the dark corners, the cobwebs, the dust, and all these ancient, sort of esoteric, curious items.
So how many of them are actually ancient? That's an interesting question.
A great question, exactly. Who knows how many scams and cons there are here. But Hank looks around. His face is handsome, but oddly, his eyes are searching. Like he seems to be a bit on edge. And he's searching, sort of looking around. He sees the Wiesen proprietor, and he says, "I'm looking for mirrors. Do you have any mirrors?"
Mirrors, you say? Was that a southern drawl?
Sure.
Sure. Mirrors, you say? That's funny. A rather enigmatic stranger came through recently and bought up all my mirrors.
Don't forget to say y'all whenever
Y'all.
if you're going to be southern.
All of them.
This is a workshop for you, Sharon. You're stretching. You're stretching your muscles.
It was mighty strange.
And
he came in.
Hank says, "What? I can't believe this.
Neither could I. It was mighty
Bought all
strange.
your mirrors?
All of them
that's
at
bullshit.
once.
What kind of Okay, get the ones in the back. You know, I've seen lots of scams, sir, and your scam isn't working here.
Well, I will tell you one thing. I left one mirror behind, my most valuable one, because
I
there's
knew
something
it.
strange about
Sure,
this
buddy. Yeah,
stranger.
Yeah. Well,
And he limps into the back, but you're probably pretty observant, so you probably didn't realize he isn't really limping because he needs to limp.
okay. He's affecting a
He's
limp.
just, wants to be mysterious. And he comes out with a old looking wooden box with a strange gold, like symbol in gold on top of it, like the metal.
Yeah, no, the symbol is weird. It looks like a Jesus cross at first. One might think so. It looks sort of like that, but oddly enough, it looks as if visually the cross has been like put on its side, so it almost looks like an X or something like that. It's an odd symbol to sort of look at. It's not a cross, though it could be mistaken for one, but it more looks like an X, like two planes coming together or something.
And he says, he's like, they say that this here box came from the lost city.
And with that, Hank perks up and he says, "Only the yellow signs lead to the lost city."
That's why this sign is gold.
Woo! All right, Hank reaches out haltingly for the box. His eyes growing.
The old man slaps the hand away and says, "This here is a mighty expensive box.
Come on, you old codger. I can pay for it. I'm good for it."
Can you pay in the price that is most valuable for this?
I sure think I can. And with that, Hank reaches in a hand into his jacket and then quickly pulls out a blackjack as he sweeps it across the old man's face to try and knock him unconscious.
Ooh, how's this going to go?
I don't know. How does this go?
I think this goes poorly.
It goes poorly. Hank is unable to knock the old man out in one solid
spry.
hit.
That limp was
Yeah,
affected.
it was an affected limp. He is spry. So he sort of misses you and sort of breaks your nose instead.
And you go, "You damn Yankee," and you roll out of the way, come up with a musket.
Exactly. You come up.
He
comes up with a gun.
I don't think.
Exactly.
I think it's like something like an umbrella,
Okay.
but that's sharp tipped at the end.
Sharp-tipped umbrella.
Like a
okay.
sword stick, but kind of.
Sure, sword
and
stick.
he opens it at you, and he points at you, and then opens it, so it flares open.
Okay.
And you can see this wicked point of this umbrella, and he's like, "Get out of my shop, you southern insults, you yank!"
All right.
I know you to rob an old, poor, limping man.
At this point, Hank would just grab the box and run out of the shop.
And as you run, you hear him screaming, "Stop, thief!
All right.
I'll teach you to rob from my curiosity shop."
Okay.
And you hear that those words seem to linger in the air longer than they would because it's just a man screaming.
Totally. And I have this weird vision of an endless street. As I get out onto the city street of New York, the bustling city street is not that. It is empty. There's no one here. In fact, it stopped raining. It's entirely like noon, like desert. It's baking, and I'm looking back and forth, just sort of tripping out as someone finally bumps into me, and I realize I am actually on a rainy street.
It's raining, so we sort of go up into the sky,
Yes.
into the rain. The camera tilts back down, and we're now on a building, and there's water pouring down, it's cascading through a fire escape. And a figure is opening, has sort of climbed onto this fire escape and is opening a window up on the 5th floor of this pre-war building and is slipping inside. There's a scuffle and some sounds and a flash in this dark room. A light flicks on, and with that we cut inside where Midge wipes some water off of her hat, shakes her hair a little bit, and wipes her glasses clean, and then uses the same kerchief to wrap and wipe the handle of the gun that's still smoking.
Oh!
She steps over a pair of legs with like patent leather shoes and goes for a bookcase.
Oh.
And pulls out a volume wrapped in this dark red leather and opens the page to a figure, an illustration of a figure in black. And she caresses the page, and we flash to her standing. It's almost like a match cut to a degree, like she's looking up and she's holding a book. It's a smaller book. It's in the stacks of this massive library. And as we cut further away from her, she's hundreds of feet down in this massive stack. And there, just in front of camera, is a dark figure. We just see the back of it. She says, "You're back."
Oh, this is the mysterious figure. Oh, for a second I'm like, is it not?
Seems pretty mysterious to me.
Yeah, the figure steps out of the shadow, and you can see his body, but there's a book sticking out of the bookshelf that covers his face.
Yeah, the camera is actually now pointing through the bookshelf,
Right, through the stacks,
and
yeah.
so you see like his body, you see his hands, but yeah, there's sort of as he moves, there's always just like a small stack of books obscuring.
And he says, what does he say? And remember, so the interesting thing is, people don't remember him as very gendered, like it's sort of androgynous. So his voice, it's like kind of strange. And he says, "You have called me to you, have you not?
Not that I know of."
You do not always need to know what your heart desires. Sometimes it just desires.
Why do you keep appearing to me? Why do
Again.
you keep coming to me?
You keep calling me. I am here to do what you desire." And he's coming closer now to Midge.
Yeah, and she's clutching this book to her chest and taking a half step back away from this looming figure.
And the figure says, "I know you search the endless streets of the lost city. Be careful, for you may get lost yourself in this search."
With that, you're actually taken aback by, there's a light in her eyes. And this meek, timid figure, she throws the book aside and rushes toward you.
Hunger!
Says, "What do you know of the city?
And
Do you know of more doors?"
And so he is kind of surprised because he thought this was like a little librarian who like didn't know much, and he like steps back, but steps into a bookshelf, and a cascade of books falls in front of him, and for an instant he's obscured from view.
Okay.
How will this go?
I think that this goes well for Midge.
All right. So as you're getting obscured, she reaches through this like cascade of books, and as she does, like her sleeve pulls back, and there's a band of silver that sparks and sparkles as she reaches through and gains hold of you, and then as the cascade finishes, she sort of folds towards you. You're both gone.
Yes, it is actually the same rainy night because It is in a small rented flat, like a Airbnb sort of, but that didn't exist then. But like a small rented flat that's furnished already.
You could easily like lease a room, but you know there are a
Right,
lot
yeah,
of
furnished
boarding,
tenement house.
like
It's
tenement,
50s,
boarding
okay.
opportunities.
In a sleazy neighborhood. I don't
Yeah.
know what the sleazy neighborhoods back then
The
were.
red light
but sleazy
district.
neighborhood. Yeah, that's Times Square, right?
Sure.
In the 50s.
Hawk Slope.
Near the dock, see?
And it's this like dark room, and as the camera enters the room, the most striking thing is that the floor is littered in glass mirrored fragments, as the walls are covered in broken mirrors, and there is a figure dressed in a suit who is not facing the camera, who is angrily smashing all these mirrors.
Yes.
And it seems to the viewer that, oh, this person is trying each mirror that's on the wall and finding it lacking, breaking it. And it's like, what is going on? What's going on? This is not the right thing. And finally, the figure, frustrated, reaches into a trunk at the foot of the bed and pulls out a scroll with a symbol on it.
Yes. The symbol is again of that weird sort of, it looks like a Jesus cross, like a crucifix, but it's not. It almost, one could almost seem like it looks like the shadow of a crucifix on the ground without actually having the crucifix represented.
And the figure is, the mysterious stranger is hesitant for a moment to unfurl the scroll, but then looks at all the mirrors which are broken, and he's frustrated again. You can tell from his body language. And he opens the scroll and begins to read.
As the scroll opens, the wax seal breaks with that sort of cross symbol on it. And oddly, the wax, as it is breaking apart, seems to pull in a way that simulates a string coming from each of the ends of the cross, as it were. It almost looks like tendrils that are coming down or something like that. That's being opened up. Yes.
Nice. And begins to like chant like these words, and the chant is strange and like echoes across. We know that the figure is trying to find something, and maybe trying to find someone who has this something that they wish to find.
And the people downstairs like bang the broom handle. What are you doing up there?
Trying to listen to the shadow.
How is the scene gonna go?
Ghost.
I think it goes ghostly.
Okay. And as the mysterious angel is like chanting and it's like echoing and stuff, he suddenly interrupted as his closet, which you seem to think he hasn't moved in. He just moved in recently because things are just still around. They haven't been put away or anything. So he hasn't really opened everything. But the closet door opens and out crashes a life-sized marionette onto the floor.
So
and
a
it's
wooden puppet?
a huge wooden puppet.
Yeah, life-size. What does it look like?
And what does it look like?
It's actually just like bare wood.
Yeah.
And you can see these like dark oxidized rivets that sort of hold the pieces in place. And the cords of the rope are just like oiled, heavy rope. Yeah. And it actually, it's not so much that it like is limp and it's like straining against these ropes.
The ropes
And
that lead into the closet.
And it reaches, it's like reaching for you. And reaches and grasps the paper. It's still just reaching for you. It has the paper in one hand as the ropes start pulling it back away.
And the mysterious stranger's chant is interrupted.
Yes.
And so the echoing like is somewhat dissonant suddenly, because for a while it was like echoing, but it's like sort of harmonic. But as he like notices this figure, this doll marionette fall out of the cupboard, the chant becomes dissonant and it becomes like a stuck in his throat. And not knowing what to do, he just rushes forward to embrace the marionette.
Oh.
And the marionette embraces him in turn and pulls him into the
closet.
And the door
Door-
is shut. And from downstairs, an old lady comes up. Why is he making so much noise? But the room is now
Empty.
Right, except for like a fluttering piece of paper.
of paper. Yeah.
And shards of glass everywhere. On
Oh
the
yeah.
ground.
And she's like, he's gonna pay for all this cleanup.
Smash cut to a different domicile. Yeah, I think that this place is more well-to-do. It looks like a small study, a small library, a very esoteric one, many tomes everywhere. Oddly enough, the only mirror in here has also been smashed. There is like a podium where like a book is already open, and we see Hank Rockfort having shed his rain-slicked coat and hat on a nearby rack, is dressed. I think that he's dressed almost like a banker or something like that. He's in like brown tweedy clothes. He has like a three-piece suit. He has really big hands, like his fingers are like sausages, and he is looking at the box, the chest that he just sort of stole. From a shop downtown, and he seems to be making odd gestures towards it and sprinkling either dust or water on it, different sort of items that he seems to be taking from different locations on his shelves or from his desk, and sort of mumbling sort of words that are sort of tumbling out of his mouth as he then sort of opens it up. And inside is a rectangular object that is wrapped in a black lace. The inside of the chest itself seems to be red plush padding. He takes out that object and begins to unwrap it. It is a mirror, and within it is blank. He looks down into it and he sees no reflection. But he begins to chant once again, casting his own spell. The wind and rain outside seem to fade away as his words drip and echo in the air around him. And how does this scene end for him, you guys, as he's casting this
let's say the
ritual
last scene
on
didn't
the...
end well for you. So let's say the scene ends
whichever,
nicely, yeah.
whatever. It ends well. Very good. So if it ends well, then that means that in the mirror, a figure resolves. The figure of Midge Bones, her sort of bookish nature, and she seems to have a book open. And Hank says, "Yes, finally, I found her." And with that, our scene ends.
We're back actually down in Chinatown at the store there. You hear the
Yes.
familiar bell,
Ding-ding.
but this time you also hear the tumblers locking, and the old man who runs the shop has a lantern that he's sort of like moving around with right now. So he's like turning that down. Everything he's quiet. He's starting to pull the shades on the windows, and there's a crack of lightning from the storm outside, and behind him is standing Midge Bones.
Ah!
Cletus,
What? Who are you?
Y'all.
Cletus, did you?
How'd you know my name?
Oh, I know more about you than you may realize, Cletus.
That's my line.
Do you still have the box?
And his eyes narrow, and he tries to what box? What are you talking about? Oh, get out of my way.
So Midge actually lifts a tintype photograph, and it's a letter in the other hand. And you can see she has a satchel on with like a bulging with a large book in it. You can see it, you can barely contain the book. And she speaks a word, and the letter starts to burn. And she passes it in front of the photograph, and the smoke and flame sort of like hit this tintype, and you see it's this like young soldier in a Confederate uniform. And for some reason you can't move. You can only just stare at Midge. Tell me again, what did you do with the box?
What? All of you want the box? That man took it, and before that person with no face wanted it as well.
The man took it. Describe this man.
He stole it from me. He was like this, old, not as old as me. He was a baby compared to me, but I was 50s, and he asked me. He was wearing this leather jacket. He looked like he was not from around here, and he took it, and he didn't pay for it, and I'm gonna get it back. I tell you.
How's this gonna go for Midge?
I think that this goes poorly for Midge.
And as you're focusing on his answer now, because you're not focusing on talking to him about holding him there as much. You don't hear footsteps right behind you as a young woman carrying a frying pan creeps up and whacks Midge.
Yeah, so
on the head.
she comes to strike Midge.
Yeah.
And she rolls, she gets hit and sort of rolls with it.
Yeah.
She drops this letter.
Yeah.
And the tintype.
Yeah.
The tintype shatters.
Yeah.
And with it, pain just racks Cletus's body.
Cletus.
Yeah, he
Ah.
screams and starts swearing in southern swears again, and falls. And the young girl, who now you realize looks a bit like this old man,
Like Cletus.
rushes and says, "Great uncle, great uncle," and rushes to try and comfort or hold
So
the
that's
old man.
Midge, holding her head, sort of stumbles out back through the back of the store. And out of the way.
But
And
she
she
now
doesn't
has
she
a
doesn't
description.
recognize that the strap on her bag broke. And her as it loosens, it comes undone as she stumbles through the alley and it splashes into a puddle, and she stumbles away into the night.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say this is directly after the last scene with the mysterious stranger. He finds himself among these endless streets, but he's not just
Yes.
walking in them. He is waltzing with a marionette
Oh, yes. of
among the
course.
streets.
They're
and
empty.
They're empty, and
It's baking
he can't really focus on the architecture at
No,
all.
it's tough to tell what it is.
What is it? Because he's whirling too much. It's very fast, spinny sort of waltz, and again, you can't see his face because the marionette's always covering his face. And he cries out release me at once. Haven't you cursed me enough already? Why must you do this to me?
It says we must have all pieces of you until you will go, and we will not know.
You will never have more of me. I will find a way to break this curse and seal this accursed doorway forever. And he starts waltzing, and he does spot in one of these weird buildings, there's a glass door, and in the what would be the reflection of the glass door is a library with a woman in it reading or looking for books, and it looks a lot like the scene we saw earlier.
Cool. The marionette continues to dance with you and says...
And mocks you.
Yeah, mocking you, saying, "You are blood of what we seek. Bring your blood here, and we freak."
The stranger starts screaming. He
Yeah.
starts screaming, and until
at
his,
this
voice is
point,
hoarse.
the marionette is freaking, gyrating sort of pelvically up on you.
And I'm gonna say the face.
How does this scene end?
I'm gonna say the face of this marionette begins to somewhat, in a wooden way,
Yes.
look like Midge Bones'
Looks like
face.
Midge's face. It goes
say this
well.
goes well, though.
It goes well.
Oh,
for
okay.
you, mysterious stranger.
So the
How does it
mysterious
go well?
stranger sees Midge's face, connects it to the face he sees in this glass reflection, and as they twirl closer to it, he manages to briefly push the the marionette off him and run straight into this glass door.
Okay.
Which shatters, and he ends up in the library in the moment in time, so in the past. And he hears the voice of of Midge say, "Why do you keep coming to me? Why are you here
And that's
again?"
when all the books fall
Yeah.
and you
Yep,
guys
that scene all
disappear in the
plays
books.
through, yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So
right.
then this is our tilt.
Yeah. So, right, we've
Yep, we
everyone's
played through 2 scenes each.
Cool. So everyone's going to roll their dice
This is
and
the
we'll
end of
generate a
Act
tilt.
1.
So we generate our tilt. We have guilt, somebody develops a conscience, and tragedy, pain followed by confusion. We interrupt our story here and we'll resume in our next communique. I was one of your players, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. And you can listen to my other podcast, New to You Show, at newtoyoushow.com.
Great podcast. And it's me, Ken Breeze. You can find me all over the interwebs at Berling's Beard, Berlings Beard. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're doing our Twitch streams. And we have our blog. And, of course, we love Board Ghost. Check us out. We'd love to see you. Say hi.
All right, Sharang, where can people find you?
So I'm Sharang Biswas. You can find me on Twitter at Sharang Biswas, whose spelling you will find on the page below because many people can never spell my name. And yeah, tweet at me. I make games and I write stories and do cool things like that.
All right. Thank you for joining us again. It's great
course.
having you.
Yeah, always great to have you on the show, Sharon. Cool.
Yay.
To learn more about the players and engine in our story, please visit boardghost.com. You can attempt to pierce the veil and contact us at BoardGhostWorld on Twitter. Shout out through the ether if you have desires we can fulfill. Please leave reviews and comments on iTunes, your preferred listening portal, and take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest episodes. We'd like to thank Pat Couples for our theme song and interlude music. You can find more about Pat at patcouples.tumblr.com or on his band's page, hotelsandhighways.com. If you're not alone in the void, share our stories. The more they are consumed, the truer they become.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, but has it been